Well, welcome to your Newsmax Daily for a busy Wednesday, May 8th, 2024. National Third Shifters Day. If you're a cop or firefighter, dispatcher, a nurse, maybe work at a warehouse or in TV news, there is a good chance you work the third shift. And kudos to you if you do, and today is your day. Today is also National Golf Day, which millions and millions of people enjoy when they're not working. And it's big business, especially here in Florida, where I live, and where former President Donald Trump may be playing a round or two today. If you've been paying attention, you know the Trump trial breaks on Wednesdays, so perhaps the former president and current Republican nominee for president will be playing some golf at one of his many clubs in the state of Florida today, or one of his clubs somewhere else. You never know with Donald Trump. Last Wednesday, you may remember, he took advantage of the day off to hold two campaign events. Looks like the next rally is coming up this Saturday in New Jersey, which I may have inadvertently said last week was last Saturday, but it is in Wildwood, New Jersey, this Saturday, 5 o'clock Eastern, and it will be carried live on Newsmax. Yesterday was all about Stormy Daniels. And since there's no trial today, it's still all about Stormy Daniels. And we all know the story. We all know what happened. There was nothing really new from Stormy Daniels' salacious testimony yesterday, and that's really what it was all about. It's a big show. And that's why I'm not going to get too much into it or play any Stormy Daniels cuts. She did say, however, though, that Trump never talked to her about money and that everything went directly through Michael Cohen, which probably was a good thing for Trump. So a lot of what Stormy Daniels said yesterday and a lot of what is Trump's perceived reaction to it is what's continuing to be the big story on some of the networks today, instead of talking about what they really should be talking about: the ridiculous, surprising, and racist comments made by some prominent Democrats. First up, New York Governor Kathy Hochul.
Young black kids growing up in the Bronx who don't even know what the word a computer is. They don't know. They don't know these things.
Lady, this is the Bronx in New York City, in America. This is not some undiscovered civilization in the Amazon. What was she thinking? Of course, after she got absolutely shellacked on the internet, she got clobbered for this. She tried to walk it back, but that didn't stop her from saying it in the first place. This was off the cuff. This was not impromptu, obviously. This is how she really feels. What was she thinking? Probably nothing, actually. They never think. These big Democrats never think. They think they're so lofty and so smart and so much better. And every once in a while, that truth just kind of slips out there, and then you get stuff like this. And then you'll go into a media tailspin with focus groups and polling stations to try to smooth it over. But where are the Al Sharptons on this? You know, folks, and do not joke with me here. If a Republican said this, Al Sharpton would be doing like world tours on liberal networks. Where's Joy Reid? That woman has made a career. That's basically all she talks about, is calling Donald Trump racist, advocating for fellow black people to actually take him down.
There is something wonderfully poetic about the fact that despite the fact that even if convicted, he's not going to go to prison, the first person to actually criminally prosecute Donald Trump is a black Harvard grad. Donald Trump is being held to account by the very multicultural, multiracial democracy that he's trying to dismantle. And for me, there's something poetic and actually wonderful about that. It says something good about our country that we're still capable of having that happen. Go DEI. My DEIs are bringing it home.
Whatever. Look, if Donald Trump had said any of the things that Kathy Hochul said, or even if she said something that Joy Reid said, that black people don't know what computers are, The View would be like wall to wall. CNN would find surviving members of the civil rights movement. And no, despite repeated claims, Joe Biden did not march with them. If any Republican, any Republican uttered anything even remotely close to that statement, lights out. That black children don't know what a computer. I'm just still getting my head around this. This would be like a 5-part series on MSNBC tonight. And anonymous sources would be coming out of the woodwork that don't actually follow through with any of this, stating that, like, in 1980, Donald Trump may have said something racist. But Democrats have been doing this for years. None of this is new.
You cannot go to a 7-Eleven or a Dunkin' Donuts unless you have a slight Indian accent. I'm not joking.
You certainly remember that and some of the other classic Biden comments that no one ever mentions. Carl Higbie played a montage of Biden, Bernie Sanders, Hillary Clinton, and others.
You have a problem figuring out whether you're for me or Trump, and you ain't black.
Democrats, folks, and I know you know this, are the party of racism. Folks, the Democratic Party, after the Civil War, founded the KKK in part to keep black people from voting. LBJ, once they could vote, specifically targeted black people with the intention of making them dependent on the government in order to hold them as a reliable voting base. The founder of the abortion movement, aka Planned Parenthood, which is a staple of the Democratic Party today, the founder, Margaret Sanger, had a history of racism, and even according to Time magazine, quote, who was also a vocal eugenics enthusiast. Don't gaslight me and tell me that the Democratic Party cares about minorities. They do not.
Fantastic, common sense stuff and facts, as always, from Carl Higbie, host of Frontline. That is 5 o'clock Eastern on Newsmax. Then Maxine Waters of California, the same U.S. Congresswoman who called for people to get out and get in the face of anyone in the Trump administration in restaurants and stores, saying you push back and you tell them they are not welcome here, said this on MSNBC.
This is a man who we'd better be careful about. And I tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to ask the Justice Department and I'm going to ask the president to tell us what they're going to do to protect this country against violence if he loses. I want to know about all of those right-wing organizations that he's connected with, who are training up in the hills somewhere and targeting, what communities they're going to attack.
They're training up in the hills, guys. Did you hear that? 20 seconds each. Dave, as a Democrat, I'll let you take your first thoughts on that. Come on.
Well, before the Biden administration says that, they should explain what they're going to do to protect Jewish students who are being harassed and intimidated on college campuses.
Yeah, it's crazy. It is, and no one pushes back on that. For 20 seconds.
All they're doing is trying to gaslight the Democratic base. They understand the stakes. The problem is they're the ones that are trying to knock Trump off the ballot, jail him, and break him financially. Who's the fascist again?
Yeah, and I remember her statements were pretty inflammatory, where she was standing out telling a group of reporters, like, go out there and jump in front of cars. We all remember that, don't we, Mahek?
We absolutely do. This is the Democrat Party under Joe Biden's leadership. They are burning our country to the ground, and they should be turning their attention to their soft on crime policies and protecting us. This is despicable, and this is why we need Trump back in office.
20 seconds, the real threat to democracy, Thane.
Bianca, since this is Maxine Waters, I'm wondering, did she feel the same way about the BLM rioters that actually were burning federal property to the ground?
That's Professor Thane Rosenbaum, along with attorney Mahik Cook, Palm Beach prosecutor Dave Aronberg, and pundit Ford O'Connell on Newsline with Bianca De La Garza. And let's go back to Carl Higbie for a moment, who spoke with conservative black commentator Joel Patrick and Stephen Davis, better known as the MAGA Hulk.
Joel, I sit here and I listen to these Democrat talking points, and it's like, how much can they get away with saying these things with nothing to back them up and even have anybody believe them anymore?
They can just keep getting away with it because, unfortunately, many people are uneducated, and people will never educate themselves on these topics, and so they're not going to be able to fact check them. So they're just going to keep saying it, probably forever.
Yeah, but Stephen, it's the same talking points time and time again, and Trump pointed this out, and I played his soundbite. Look, he did the things that the Democratic Party hasn't done for 60 years.
Yeah, absolutely. The thing is, this is a Marxist playbook. You accuse the opponent of doing the very things you've done and continue to do. You gaslight, you manipulate the narrative, you fearmonger, right? And then you swoop in and act like the sensible ones, that we're going to restore dignity to the Oval Office. And that's the name of the game when it comes to these people. But it was Trump who actually restored this dignity to the Oval Office. He actually made things better for the American people. And it's really sad to see the switching and the twisting of narratives, especially with people like Maxine Waters. It's imperative that we get out there and we tell the truth about the fact of the matter. And the fact of the matter is, Trump is the one that did the best thing for America.
Right. But Joel, anytime a Republican candidate brings up any of the points that I just made over the last, 10 minutes, they are immediately called racist, even though all they're doing is pointing out how bad the Democrats are at the very things that they're promising people.
Yeah, but who cares?
Well, I mean, logical point.
I don't care. I genuinely do not care if Trump is racist. Trump could be the most racist president in history. But if he is going to put America first, if he is going to be pro-life, if he is going to push forward my values, then I don't care if he is racist. I genuinely don't care. Everybody pretends like racism is the worst evil that exists in the world. There are other forms of evil. The fact that all these other Democrats are completely un-American and care nothing about American values, to me, is more concerning. I feel like racism is a boogeyman. Everybody talks about it all the time, like it's this really big issue in America, but we have real issues in America, like the border being overrun, like our taxes, our cost of living is insane. I genuinely don't care if somebody's racist at this point.
That's business owner and black conservative Joel Patrick, who will probably get some backlash, or a lot of backlash, from many in the black community. But think about it. Really think about what he's saying there. Is your life better or worse, regardless or irregardless of the perception and the narrative and what really matters? And I am not saying that to downplay racism whatsoever, but think about what he's saying and think about, is your life better or worse? Okay, on yesterday's Newsmax Daily, we heard South Dakota Governor Kristi Noem, who was rumored to be a potential vice presidential candidate for Donald Trump. Today, we hear from former Hawaii representative and presidential candidate Tulsi Gabbard, a former Democrat who probably has even a better chance at this point of being Trump's running mate.
I've listened to your book. You left the Democratic Party. One of the core things you talk about is that your former party, the Democratic Party, you say is authoritarian.
Yes.
And it's eroding rights.
And it's sad. It's sad, Greta. And you have lived in and around politics for such a long time. I know you have witnessed, as I have, how much the Democratic Party has changed. When I first joined the party, I was 21 years old, and I saw a party that celebrated free speech, a party that represented the values of President John F. Kennedy and Martin Luther King. You fast forward to where we are today. They are weaponizing the Department of Justice, undermining the rule of law, throwing everything they possibly can at President Trump, trying to keep us as voters from even having the choice of who to vote for in this election, and targeting political opponents.
You were a kid politician. You were a politician. When did you first run for office?
I was
21
in 2002.
Okay, you were a kid politician. Have you changed?
In some ways, as the world has changed, I have re-looked at my views and my positions on things. But fundamentally, from a principles standpoint, from a values standpoint, I've always been an independent-minded person. I've always done my best to put our country first before any partisan interests, and made sure that I was rooted in those fundamentals of freedom.
Well, you talk about putting your country first. You served in uniform, still in uniform,
yes.
Right? Still in uniform. And you got pretty much beat up in the election about I think it's called maybe unpatriotic or even a Russian asset.
Putting it nicely, yes.
What? I mean, to put it nicely.
Yes. It is a signal to anyone who dares to challenge the Washington elite, the likes of Hillary Clinton and Mitt Romney, people from both political parties who have called me these types of names, accusing me of being a traitor to the country that I love and I'm willing to lay my life down for, all because they refuse to be challenged with their warmongering neocon narrative and refuse to be confronted with the truth of the harsh and costly consequences of their decisions and the policies they've been pushing for decades.
Okay, the question everybody wonders is whether or not you would consider being vice president if Trump selects you. What would be the attraction to that job if the answer is yes? And what's he like when one-on-one?
If he asked, I would be honored to serve. I'd be honored to serve my country and be in a position where I can actually begin to start tackling many of these challenges we face, whether it's border security or other domestic issues, as well as to get our foreign policy back on track. We're on the brink of multiple wars.
All right, we see him on TV. I've interviewed him a million times, but what's he like when you talk to him?
I've had great conversations with him, engaging, many different topics. We have had great conversations.
Former Hawaii representative and potential vice presidential candidate Tulsi Gabbard on the record with Greta Van Susteren. She mentioned her service to the country, right? She served 3 deployments to the Middle East and is still an active U.S. Army reservist. She also has a new book out for the love of country. Meanwhile, another Biden presidency means we're going to see at some point a President Kamala Harris. Listen to Tulsi Gabbard. Listen to Kristi Noem, Elise Stefanik. Compared to the vice president, that is what the vice president should sound like. He or she should be able to answer questions and address issues. Meanwhile, independent presidential candidate Robert F. Kennedy Jr., who has already selected his running mate, attorney Nicole Shanahan, is now challenging Donald Trump to a debate. More from Eric Bolling.
You're calling for a debate with President Trump. You have an open letter to him. I'll let you explain it.
Yeah, we're both, Eric, thanks for having me, first of all. We're both speaking at the Libertarian Convention in Washington, D.C. on May 24th and 25th. I've invited President Trump to debate. He's repeatedly said that he is willing to debate anytime, any place. He said that he specifically would debate me as long as my poll numbers are up. My numbers now in the latest Quinnipiac poll and CNN poll exceed the 15% threshold.
You sure you want to debate Donald Trump? I mean, there are stages littered with political careers everywhere in the aftermath of people wanting to debate Donald Trump. The guy's a master debater without a question. You up for that? You ready for that?
Yeah, I am, and I agree with you. I think President Trump is arguably, well, he's certainly the best debater in modern political history. I would say since my uncle. My uncle was also a very good debater, and who knows, what would have happened if my uncle had come across Donald Trump. I can't imagine it, but you could argue that he's the best debater since the Lincoln-Douglas debate. He's gone through, as you know, in 2016, he went through 16 opponents and, left them all in mayhem.
Independent presidential candidate RFK Jr. on the balance with Eric Bolling, who says Facebook and other platforms have been censoring him.
Kennedy, the American Values Super PAC, put out a 30-minute video called Who is Bobby Kennedy? It's narrated by Woody Harrelson. It's a very, very powerful video, and it already has 100 million views. Both Facebook and Instagram have been actively censoring the video. They've been removing it from people's platforms, and now they continue. Now we've called their attention and threatened litigation. They've allowed people to actually post it, but they are shadow banning it and slow walking it. So we're looking at our litigation options right now.
That's Robert Francis Kennedy Jr. on the balance with Eric Bolling, weeknights at 8 o'clock. People, I believe, are not talking enough about how his campaign could affect the election come November. He is now on ballots in 12 states and says he'll be on all 50 by November. So the Trump trial is off today. Today's Wednesday. He was also given the day off from the New York trial for Barron's graduation and is also planning to headline a Republican fundraiser in Minnesota that same day. Barron's graduation is in West Palm Beach, Florida. It's in the morning, which is very common there because of the heat. I guess that's common in a lot of places, but the graduation is in the morning. Then Trump will fly the Trump jet to St. Paul, Minnesota, for the Minnesota Republican Party's annual Lincoln-Reagan dinner that evening. And his trial in Florida on charges of illegally keeping classified documents after leaving office has been indefinitely postponed now by Judge Eileen Cannon. Also big news yesterday, greatly reducing the odds that he will face a jury in either of the 2 federal criminal cases against him before the November election. And Republican lawmakers, speaking of classified documents, have uncovered some disturbing information concerning President Biden's already suspended special envoy to Iran, Robert Malley, who they say stored classified materials on his personal email account and cell phone. which, no surprise, were later accessed by a hostile cyber actor. Malley, as I mentioned, already had been suspended and lost his security clearance amid a State Department investigation on the handling of said classified information. Last but not least, President Biden is in Wisconsin today to announce a $3.3 billion investment by Microsoft to build a new artificial intelligence center. This is where the Taiwanese company Foxconn was supposed to build this huge site, something that was brokered during the Trump administration and never fully developed. Now Microsoft is moving in. Hopefully will bring thousands of jobs to the area. The Biden administration has also put a shipment of weapons to Israel on hold, presumably over its disagreement with Israel's attack on Rafah, which is happening now as we speak. That is according to two Israeli officials. The most transparent White House in history has declined comment about the weapons delivery. All right, be sure to keep up with all of the news all day and night long on Newsmax, Newsmax Plus, and at Newsmax.com. If you are not yet streaming the new Newsmax Plus, simply go to NewsmaxPlus.com, get signed up. You can get a free trial there as well. Yes, it includes all of your favorite shows and hosts. The Balance with Eric Bolling, Greg Kelly Reports, Rob Schmidt, Greta Van Susteren, Bianca De La Garza, fantastic analysis from people like Governor Mike Huckabee, former Acting Attorney General Matthew Whitaker, Alan Dershowitz, and more. NewsmaxPlus.com. I'm Tony Marino. Thank you for listening to the Newsmax Daily. Enjoy the rest of your Wednesday, and keep on fighting the good fight.
News breaks every minute, every day. You need the app, the Newsmax app. Find it free on your smartphone store. Then watch us anytime, anywhere.
It's our America. We conquered it. We built it. Great values like honesty and fairness. Great courage. A great nation needs a free press. Newsmax is it. 30 million Americans regularly go to Newsmax when they really need to know. They watch Newsmax TV at home. On the free Newsmax app, they go to Newsmax.com. Start today. Newsmax is real news for real people.